Motorola is well known in the US for making some of the best and most iconic budget smartphones, and for 2021 that is no different. To kick off the new year, Motorola has launched the Moto G Play, Moto G Power, Moto G Stylus, and the Motorola One 5G Ace. Now all of these phones are aiming to offer good specs and features at pretty competitive price tags, but given how many there are to choose from and how similar some of those prices actually are to one another, knowing which Motorola phones you should seriously consider and which ones you should maybe skip over can be a little challenging. So today we're going to help you with just that. My name is Joe Marin with Android Central, and this is which Moto phone you should buy in 2021. Now kicking off the list, we have the Moto G Play. Now this is the most inexpensive Motorola phone launching so far in 2021, featuring a retail price of $169. And as you would expect for a phone that cheap, you have to put up with a few compromises in the process. Looking at the spec sheet for the Moto G Play, we're treated to a 6.5-inch HD Plus display, a Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 processor, 3GB of RAM with 32GB of internal storage that is expandable, and as far as the camera situation goes, there is a 13-megapixel primary camera with a 2-megapixel depth sensor. And looking through that spec sheet, it's pretty understandable where you're going to meet some of those compromises. The HD Plus display is fine, but you will notice the softer image compared to some other budget phones, and that Snapdragon 460 processor paired with the 3GB of RAM that will result in some of your apps taking a bit longer to open, and it'll just feel like you are using a slower smartphone. The real star of the show with the Moto G Play is its 5,000 mAh battery, which according to Motorola is enough to get you up to 3 days of use on just one charge. The rest of this spec sheet, like I already mentioned, is pretty mediocre across the board. What you're really paying for is that excellent battery life with fairly competent specs everywhere else. The Moto G Play is a fine package on its own, but when looking at the next phone on Motorola's list for 2021, it is maybe one that you should consider skipping over and spending just a little bit more for the next phone, which is the Moto G Power. The new 2021 Moto G Power is just a little bit more expensive at $199 US, but there are a couple of key upgrades that do make it worth the extra cash. The main upgrade here for the Moto G Power is its processor. Instead of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 found in the Moto G Play, you are now getting the Snapdragon 662. Now that's obviously not the top tier Snapdragon processor you can get in 2021, but it is considerably faster than the 460 and should allow for snappier and better overall day-to-day use. The camera system of the Moto G Power also sees a nice upgrade, ditching that 13-megapixel primary camera from the Moto G Play and swapping it out for a 48-megapixel sensor. And you're also treated to 2-megapixel depth and macro cameras, but those are kinda useless and you're going to be spending most of your time with that 48-megapixel sensor. It's not a camera system that's going to blow you away, but it is a bit better than what you find on the Moto G Play, and it's perfectly suitable for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and those kind of photo sharing situations. As for the rest of the phone, it's honestly pretty similar. You are still stuck with just an HD Plus display, so you're still not getting the sharpest image out there. You still have 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, and while those things are kind of cons as far as similarities go, we are happy to report that the same 5,000 mAh battery is also present in the Moto G Power. Now there is actually a second version of the Moto G Power available for $249, giving you 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Now those are two pretty notable upgrades over the baseline $199 Moto G Power, but it's not the upgrade we'd recommend if you're looking for more Moto. In that case, we'd recommend you check out the Moto G Stylus. The Moto G Stylus is one of the more expensive Motorola phones available right now in 2021 as far as the budget lineup goes, retailing for $299. However, outside of a slightly smaller battery, you're getting pretty good upgrades across the board. One of the most notable changes is that the 6.8-inch display is upgraded to a full HD resolution. Compared to the HD Plus resolution of the Moto G Play and the Moto G Power, this is going to give you a much sharper image, and whether it be Twitter, movies, Instagram, whatever it may be, everything on your phone is just going to look so much better than those other two phones. You're also getting faster performance thanks to a Qualcomm Snapdragon 678 processor, along with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. In regards to the camera situation, the Moto G Stylus is pretty similar to the Moto G Power. There's that 48 megapixel primary sensor with the 2 megapixel depth and macro cameras. In addition to all of that though, you are also getting an 8 megapixel ultra-wide sensor too. I mentioned already that the battery is a bit smaller at just 4,000 milliamp hours. While that's not quite as impressive as the 5,000 milliamp hour batteries found in the Moto G Play and the Moto G Power, Motorola says the Moto G Stylus should still be able to get you through about 2 days of use in a single charge, which is honestly still really great. And of course, as the name implies, the Moto G Stylus comes with that free stylus. Now, it's not the best stylus experience we've ever encountered, but it does get the job done. You can use it for annotating documents, drawing and doodling, or taking handwritten notes. And if you don't want to use it at all, you can just hide it in the bottom of the Moto G Stylus and just kind of ignore that it's ever there. Again, this isn't really the make or break point for the phone, but regardless if you use the stylus or not, the rest of the specs from the cameras, processor, the display, everything else is just so much nicer from the Moto G Power. And while it is an extra $100 on top of that $199 Power model, if you have a bit more to spend and are looking for kind of an upgraded Motorola experience but still don't want to spend gobs of money, the Moto G Stylus is honestly a really good value this year. And last but certainly not least, we have the Motorola One 5G Ace. Now this is the first Motorola phone coming out in 2021 that's not part of a Moto G series, and looking at all of these specs on paper, it is the top Motorola phone that's being launched right now. The Motorola One 5G Ace has a 6.7-inch Full HD Plus display and a Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G processor that allows for a couple of things. One, you're getting very good performance and the fastest performance out of all of these Motorola phones, and there is also support for sub-6 5G connectivity, assuming you live in an area that supports it. We also see big upgrades to the RAM and storage departments, with the Motorola One 5G Ace featuring 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Once again, just like all the Motorola phones, that is expandable should you find yourself needing even more room. The camera setup is pretty similar to what a lot of these other phones have, with the Motorola One 5G Ace having the exact same system found in the Moto G Stylus, just with the fact that that 2 megapixel depth camera is missing here. In the battery department, you get that big 5,000 milliamp hour battery found in the Moto G Play and the Moto G Power. Another nice perk of the Motorola One 5G Ace is that it's actually the only phone here with NFC for Google Pay. Now, Motorola has long omitted NFC from a lot of its budget phones for some reason, but if you do want NFC on a cheap Motorola phone, the Motorola One 5G Ace is the only one that's going to give you that functionality. The Motorola One 5G Ace is the most powerful and the most technically impressive Motorola phone on this list, but when you're stepping up to that $399 asking price, some of its cons become a bit more difficult to overlook. As far as the overall design and build quality goes, it's actually the worst out of all four phones. Something with the frame of the phone and the back plastic aren't exactly meshed together well, meaning you're constantly feeling the lip of the frame when you're holding the phone in your hand, and it just doesn't feel all that great. And now design is also subjective, but I'm really not a fan of how this semi-glossy, weird textured back looks. Compared to the Moto G Play, the Moto G Power, and the Moto G Stylus, it's just very disappointingly bad and honestly, like I said, feels worse than all of the other cheaper phones. There's also the fact that camera performance on the Motorola One 5G Ace just isn't great in this price range. For $50 less, you can get the Pixel 4a, which is just one of the best cameras hands down, where on this phone you're dealing with things like muted colors, slow focusing issues, and because there's no optical image stabilization, it's really tricky to get a good photo in a low light situation. Now those are issues you're going to face on the Moto G Power, the Moto G Play, and the Moto G Stylus as well, but when you're spending $399 and asking that much more money, those issues are a bit more apparent on the Motorola One 5G Ace and a bit more difficult to overlook. Something else we want to mention for all four of these phones is the software situation. Whether it be the Moto G Play, the Power, the Stylus, or the One 5G Ace, all of them are shipping on Android 10 and are promised just one software update to Android 11. Now, Motorola has always stuck with this one update policy, but it's especially bad this year given that we have 4 phones launching in January 2021, and they're still running on Android 10 despite Android 11 being a thing for over 5 months at this point. This is a bad software policy for all of these phones, even the dirt cheap Moto G Play, but like I said for those other cons, it feels especially bad for the $399 Motorola One 5G Ace. So with that all said, where does that put us? Well, if you're looking for a really low-cost Motorola phone that's going to let you keep as much money in your pocket as possible but still get you a really good user experience, we'd have to recommend the 2021 Moto G Power. The Moto G Play is a really good option if you absolutely can't spend $1 more than $169, but if you can't afford that $199 asking price for the baseline Moto G Power, we think the $30 extra is worth it for that better processor and the better cameras. It's just going to result in a better experience from day one and hopefully over a couple years of use, and we think it's just money well spent. If your budget is even more flexible and you want a bit more power and a better overall experience for just a little bit more money, we would recommend going for the $299 Moto G Stylus. Regardless if you plan on using the Stylus or not, you're getting notable upgrades for the display, processor, RAM, storage, basically all the core tenets of a smartphone you could want for, you're getting upgrades there. Again, the battery is a little bit smaller at 4,000 mAh, but for the vast majority of users, that's still plenty to work with. As for the Motorola One 5G Ace, it's honestly kind of a dud. Now, $399 is a good price considering that this is a big phone with 5G, multiple cameras, and that 750G processor, but when you consider phones like the Pixel 4a for just $349, as long as you're good with a smaller phone, that's just a device that's infinitely better in almost every way, and it makes the Motorola One 5G Ace just feel kind of a letdown. If you really do want that Motorola experience and you have more money to spend than the Play and the Power, just get the Stylus unless you absolutely need 5G, which, let's be honest, you probably don't. But with that said, that is going to do it here for this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then be sure to check out all of the other videos here we have to offer. My name's Minjo Marin from Android Central. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.